Hey pilots, welcome to the deep dark world that is 3D printing. Now, the aim of this video is just to go through some of the tips and tricks that we've certainly learned along the way. It can be challenging, and don't be afraid to end up with some failed prints, because I've certainly had a few. There's a wealth of information online. Especially Chep's Filament Fridays. I've found loads of useful information there, from starting off with your first printer to upgrading them to silent fans, etc., and finding out any problems and getting some sort of answers and solutions. There is online forums that certainly provides wealth of knowledge. When it comes to printing itself, there's one guy I always go to, Troy McMillan. He printed and built many 3D planes, all from eclipsing to 3D lab print, and he's got a fantastic video there about thin wall printing. I'll just give you a wee clip of that.
Yes, the main problem was it just way too hot, so I turned the temperature down to 220, and then it needs cooling for this small of a print, so I turned that up to 100%. And we'll turn that back off once we do the wing test, but we'll try that for now. This is number 2. Looks a lot better. Still have retraction turned off. So once we turn the retraction on, that'll fix a lot of this stringing. So that's what we'll do in the next one.
So that'll be stringing test piece. You can find that in Thingiverse along with, I don't know, loads of other stuff. I kind of set up my printer by having a look at everybody else's settings that I could find online. Going to Eclipsing, looking at their documents and sharing some of the information and taking it into my slicer. I'm using Cura. So here I'm uploading the bifurcated exhaust, just to give you a wee example of things to think about when you're actually going to print with lightweight PLA. Now you will see there the light blue lines running through the center of it there. This is actually the travel. So when you're filament stringing, that's where the excess filament's going to be, which is not an issue. It can be certainly trimmed away, but when you're looking at exhaust tubes or tubes that may be difficult to reach in, need to think about the positioning. So what I do is I'll take it, I'll flip it round 90 degrees so that you'll see the travel moving at the back, or whether it be the front, depending on how you lay it on your print bed, and you'll see it there. Then that way all the excess filaments on the outside, and it's a bit easier to trim away. So that's tip number 1. When I first started printing, I was printing in PLA because it's all I knew. However, I moved into the realms of lightweight PLA, which was certainly interesting and a huge benefit to our world of 3D printing. So you can see here I've got the Voodoo nose cone. If it's printed in PLA is one of the settings, we're looking at a 10 hour print, 109 grams worth of plastic. However, that's dependent on the settings which we'll go through. Let's preview it. Always have a wee preview it first, just to make sure that I can see where we're at in terms of settings. Now, as you can see there's a lot of infill in it, which can be used for certainly a help to structural components. However, I've been doing a bit of 3D printing with the lightweight PLA and structural parts, and had great results so far. So there we go, 109 grams. Like I say, if we go to the infill, let's remove the infill because we want it as light as possible. And we've moved from 109 down to 40 grams. Again, as you can see there, we have actually 3 walls which we can change and get it thinner and even less weight. So let's take that to 1. we'll have a thin nose cone made from PLA. This part here is what's called the seam. We'll cover that as well just right now, I suppose, while we're at it. So with nose cones, what I'll always do is have a look at the nose cone and decide where's the top, where's the bottom, and the side. So on the print bed, that's how it's going to print. This is the front as we look at the printer, and that's the back there. So what I like to do is make sure that the seam runs along the back. So like we did, we switched it round, and we've now got the seam at the back on the underside of the aircraft, just so that it helps pleasing aesthetics. 19 grams. If we switch that to lightweight PLA, we're now down to 7 grams. Again, let's have a look at that. One wall, and the base is missing. So if we leave it one wall on the bottom, the base is missing because of my settings that I've got in there. If we put in three of the base, there we go. So that's the bottom. It'll come up. There we go. And yeah, a total of 9 grams. So here's the nose cone here. As you can see, there's a tiny wee spot at the front. As it's printed up, it's actually picked it up. There's no hanging about. It's probably just stuck still inside there somewhere. As you can see, it's a nice smooth piece. There is some, additional extrusion I think that can be tidied up, but for me, happy with that. I've actually printed this in 2 walls just so that it's a little bit more rigid. So if we have a look at the 2 walls, let's go to 2. That's 12, 1, 2. And it says 15 grams. So 1 hour, 44 minutes for the nose cone, 15 grams. Again, it's a huge reduction from, I think it was 40 grams in the PLA down to 15. So if we just double check that, we've got the scales, zeroed that out, actually coming in at 12 grams. So this part is the intake, EDF intake. As you can see here, there's a red overhang, which signifies that there's the plastic's going to be printing in the middle of nowhere. So what we need is support. In the support section, I like to use the tree infill. These blue lines are the travel movements again, where it shows the extruder is going to be moving back and forward, and this is where you'll get the additional stringing with the lightweight PLA because of its foaming. Let's just remove the travels. As you can see here, this is the tree support structure. This will be printing up just so that it gets to the support lines and holds, just forms a sort of bridge to help the layers of plastic coming down on top, and it doesn't just sag. If I look at a couple of lines by lines, as you can see, it comes up and then eventually it starts giving some form of support. Why there's nothing over here, I'm not too sure. However, it turned out actually quite alright. So here is the piece printed. As you can see, that's the support structure. The tree support's going up, and with the travel, as it was moving back and forward, you can see there's additional pieces of lightweight PLA there, but very simple and easy enough to remove. Just give it a wee scrape. Sandpaper, a nice sharp blade will remove all the excess. As you can see here, this is the additional parts of the stringing, because the lightweight PLA is foams. So again, it's very easy to remove a piece of sandpaper, and here's one that I cleaned up earlier. Very nice. There's a little tiny piece there. Again, a wee bit of sandpaper will remove that. You will see some tiny ridges on the top. I'm not actually too sure if you can see that properly. Tiny wee ridges at the top. Again, a wee piece of sandpaper, just smoothing that down, and the parts look absolutely fantastic. So that's 8 grams. I think I actually printed this 2 walls thick. It was just so that it's a wee bit extra support. Well, just a little wee bit stronger. $9 grams it's weighing in at. It's expecting to print out 14 grams of filament, but take into account that also includes the additional support structure there that we will be removing. Here's the exhaust nozzle. So I've printed these off and I'll let you have a wee look at them, and again what we'll do is we'll just preview it. So in terms of this, what are we looking at? 2 walls. Yeah, I'm sure I printed it off in 2 walls. So looking at it, as you can see here, again it's actually printing in the middle of nothing. The filament's just, as you can see here, the filament will be printing in thin air. So really, if we were to add infill would capture that. If we just put it in at 10%, just for talking sake, just for example, as you can see, there's the infill, which will add extra support, again extra weight, but where this is, as it's not structural, I don't see any need or requirement for infill, other than possibly catching the filament so it's not printing to mid-air. What I chose to do was flip it upside down. So what we'll do is just have a look through it all. There we have some support. Didn't need that support. Let's get rid of the support piece there. Didn't need it. There is a slight overhang, but I think you'd be lucky if it's a couple of millimeters, as you can see. There's a piece of it there. What I did was I took it and I flipped it upside down, so that as we're looking at it, I wanted the bottom, at least what you're going to see on the jet itself, I wanted this part to be nice and clean. This part, I'm not really too fussy about it because that's going to be getting stuck to the foam. So if there's maybe some pieces missing there or whatever, if it's not too flat, not really that fussy, to be honest. Especially in terms of we're going to have a better finish on the outside. So looking at it here, again, as we build up, you can see the small layers. And at that point, if it was the opposite way, it would be printing these parts in thin air. However, I flipped it upside down and it's actually printing onto the plastic itself. That way it will give it a better support, better structure on the internal parts, and there'll not be anything just floating about there. And as it prints up, there's a wee ridge goes around it. So when we get to here, the top piece, I've got 3 top layers, I'm sure it is. So I don't have an issue, as the plastic will it will catch on the sides and it will stick to each other before it actually. You might get a slight piece of sagging in these long lines here, but when it goes to the next layer up, it will certainly catch it on top of that, and you'll get a nice flat finish. And then the third final layer will be just exactly what I need. You can see here we have the seam again at the back. I'm assuming that this part of the structure will be on the inside of the exhaust. So this and obviously the other one will be pointing to the inside, so that you don't really see the seam. However, with lightweight PLA, it is very soft, softer than PLA as it is. And as you can see here, I'm not sure, I hope you can see the seam line. Just runs right along there. You might see it, might not. There we go. The seam line, that's going to be in the back. If that's on the inside of the exhaust, then you're not really going to see it. Like I say, I printed this upside down. The base actually turned out pretty well. Again, you can see additional pieces of extrusion where it's stringing. Again, not an issue to remove. Yeah, I'm sure I printed this in 2 walls, just so that it was a wee bit stronger. In terms of weight, it says 13 grams filament is due to produce. What did we get here? 10 grams final weight, which I think's absolutely superb. If it was normal plastic, normal PLA, let's make sure that there's no infill. I'm sure this one will 20%. Yep, let's take that away. So from 24 grams normal PLA to 10 grams lightweight PLA, 2 walls, absolutely fantastic. Like I say, you could print this 1 wall. There's no infill in it either. You could print that 1 wall and it would be even less filament. So in terms of the nose cones, here is the SU75 Checkmate. For those that have seen the videos of me doing the testing and CGA, I'm sure you'll be aware that I've went through a few nose cones. Whether that's due to my flying style or just the joys of crashing, I'm not actually too sure, but we're getting there with it. However, like I was saying, I've been doing some test printing with TPU, different type of filament, very soft, and it works fantastic. So when I crash, and I will crash, there's a chance of the nose cone just crumbling. However, you can straighten it back out as it's a flexible filament. I think there's certainly a wee bit more to be done, more testing. I've been doing some printing some hinges and stuff with the TPU. I think it's pretty good. Like I say, it's flexible, lovely finish on it as well, and the fact that it's it returns to shape, I think it's special. There will be slight creases in it, but it's better to have slight creases than smashed up nose cones. So just recapping on some of the things that we've went over in settings is, certainly one of the biggest parts that'll help your printing experience. I've just kind of covered my experience on lightweight PLA in terms of the seams, the infills, the amount of walls they use, or where we're needing support for overhangs. But when I first started printing, there was a few guys that certainly helped me along my way. Just to name a few: Gary Bulmer, Eric Strafford, and Tobias as well. And the main man himself, Craig Clarkson, a massive thanks, huge shout out to him for all these superb designs. So in terms of that additional support, like I was saying, if you have a wee look online, checking out Troy McMillan for tips and tricks on the printing techniques for thin walls, and Chet for some helpful hints on sorting out your printer.